Okay. Chapter 4 is polynomials. So it's broken up into 3 parts. The first part is addition and subtraction of polynomials. And section 1 that we're going to do today is the concept of exponents. Most of this today should be a review for most of you because you should have studied something about exponents in pre-algebra. But I'm going to review from the beginning so that if you know nothing about exponents, you can learn it now. So please take out your notebooks and we're going to take some notes. So please make sure that you copy these into your notebooks. That way you have all this stuff, you know what's going on. Okay. In the expression, and that's written, and that's, I'm sorry, read, is 5 to the 4th power. The number 4 is called the exponent. And the number 5 is called the base. Okay? So an exponential expression has a base and an exponent. The base here would be 5 and the exponent is 4. We call this exponential form because what we're really saying is that we take whatever our base is and we multiply it by itself the exponent number of times. So 5 to the 4th just means that you have the number 5 multiplied by itself 4 times. Okay? And if you wanted to simplify that out further, you could say 5 times 5 is 25, so that's 25. And then times 5 more would be 125. And then 5 times more than that would be 625. So you could figure out and you could simplify the expression 5 to the 4th as 625. And so sometimes in the mixed review, that's what it asks you to do. It just wants to know if you can multiply those out. However, what you're going to be learning in this chapter is you're not going to be able to simplify those out because you're going to have variables in there. So typically, your 5 will be a variable, the base. So you might get something like looks like this. It might look like x to the 4th instead, where that would be x times x times x times x. And so if you don't know what x is, there's no way you can simplify that down anymore. Now you may also get a problem where it says simplify x to the 4th where x is, and it'll tell you, evaluate it if x is 3, evaluate if x is negative 3. It might tell you a number. But if not, then you would just leave it x to the 4th. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on what that means? The exponent, the base. I think that should all be pretty much from pre-algebra, but that's what an exponent is. It's the number that you raise a base to. And it's all it's about is multiplying it that many times. So let's also review the summary of our orders of operations. So whenever you get an expression, you have to simplify based on a certain order in order to get the correct answer. And so you start with grouping symbols. Grouping symbols can be parentheses, 3 plus 2. That's a grouping symbol. You have the parentheses. You could have 4 times that quantity in brackets. Okay? The brackets are another grouping symbol. So you'd start with your parentheses, then move out and multiply by your brackets. A quick review. If you're multiplying any number by some group of things, what property would you use to evaluate that?
Distributive.
The distributive property. Okay? And then you could also, the final grouping symbol there is braces. So you could have all that minus 6. And that's called a brace. Those are braces when you have that sort of symbol. And so those are all grouping symbols. Okay? Another grouping symbol is the fraction bar. If you have something and it's over something else, where you have a fraction, this fraction bar is a grouping symbol. That tells you even if there's no symbols here, if there's no parentheses, no brackets, no braces, you're still going to do that first. Okay, along with this other stuff, you'll do the whole top and then the whole bottom and then divide once you're all done. So the fraction bar is the last thing to happen when you have a fraction bar. So you'll evaluate the entire top, evaluate the entire bottom, and then divide the top from the bottom. Okay? Those are grouping symbols. Next is exponent. So after you've done all the grouping that you can do, and you simplify all your groups as much as you can, the next thing you would do is exponents, which is what we're learning about now. And so if you had 2 to the second power plus 4 minus 1, you're going to do the exponent before you do anything else. So 2 to the second power, what does this mean, Dan? How would I evaluate that? 2 to the second power. 2 times 2, which is 4. So I'd say 4 plus 4 minus 1. So I'm going to do the exponents. After I do the grouping symbol, I'll do the exponents next. Then I multiply and divide from left to right. So if I have 6 divided by 2 times 3 plus 1. Everybody tell me what, do this on your paper or something, and then raise your hand when you have an answer of what you think that equals. Give everyone a second chance to do it, and then I'll call on you. Give me just a second. Does everyone have an answer? Is there anybody still working? Do you have an answer, Hojin? Do you have the answer? You need to pay attention and look up here, okay? We're doing this. Everyone's got an answer? What do you have, Desiree? 10. 10. Who else thinks it's 10? Raise your hand. Who thinks it's something different other than 10? It's 10 because you're going to multiply and divide from right to left. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 times 3 plus 1. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1.
Wait, isn't it you multiply and divide from left to right?
That is what I did.
I thought you said right to left.
Left to right, I'm sorry if I said that. It is left to right. Okay. Okay. And then finally add and subtract from left to right. Notice that this is not an order. So if the division comes first, you can divide before you multiply. And this is an order here. If the subtraction came first, if you had 7 minus 2 times 3, well, the 2 times 3 you would do first. But let's say it was plus 6. So the first thing you would do is the 2 times the 3. But then you would subtract before you add. It's just the addition and subtraction, whichever comes first, from left to right, is your fourth step. Okay. So, does anyone have any questions about the orders of operation? Okay, let's do some problems then. Everyone open up your book to page 142. No, I'm sorry, 143. Sorry. 143, we're going to do some of the written exercises. And I assigned the odds, or the even, so we'll do odds. Okay? So you're going to do these even exercises, and I skipped every 4, so there's not as many. All right, so...
You said 143?
I did.
Okay.
143. Okay, and then I'm just going to go around and we're going to do these together, and I'll call on you to go around the room. So let's do the first one. Find the area of each rectangle. Well, first of all, how do you find the area of a rectangle, Alex? Length times width. Good. And 2 and 3y. So for number 2, you have 3x and 5x. Okay. So yeah, when we're looking for area, we're going to multiply our length multiplied by our width. And so what you're going to have is 5x times 3x. Okay. Now when you're multiplying these things, this is the same because multiplication, remember, is commutative, which means that you can multiply in any order that you want. So this is really just nothing more than 5 times x times 3 times x.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
But isn't it, wouldn't you have to double it because there's something?
We're not looking for perimeter.
Oh.
Perimeter is where you go all the way around. Area is length times the width.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be 15x?
Hojin, you have to sit up, please.
Wouldn't it simple 15x. We have 5 that's 15.
15x to the second.
Right, but let me show you how we get there. All right, so once you have this commutative property, once you have these around, then you're going to use the commutative property. And what you want to do is you want to group together the things that are similar. So we call these numbers constants. Okay, so if you don't know what that is, write that down. It's a constant. You want to multiply your constants first. So just move them around 5 times 3, and then your variables second. Okay, so that's all I did is move them around, and then you can multiply everything. What's 3 times 5, Weston?
15.
And what is x times x, Dan? It's x to what power? What power am I going to put up there? How many x's am I multiplying? 2. X squared. And when the exponent is 2, we call that squared. So you could say 15x to the second power, or you can say 15x squared. Similarly,
Cube.
what?
Because it's 3.
What are you asking?
What cube? 3.
Oh, cubed. Cubed, yeah. So, I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you have something to the third power, you can call that x to the third power, or you can call that x cubed. Okay? If you had a quantity, x plus 2 to the third power, you would say x plus 2, the quantity x plus 2 cubed. Okay? Because then you'd be cubing the entire quantity. Okay? So for this one here, the area is just 15x squared. All right. Let's look at number, what did I just did number 2. So let's go to number 3. All right, so number 3. What do you have for number 3, Felix? What is your answer?
8z squared.
8z squared, good. If anyone's not following or doesn't understand, ask when we go. Otherwise, we're moving on. All right, number 7. Eric? First thing you're going to do is you're going to find your constants, and the only constant you have here is a 3. So just to rearrange them so that you have your constant and then your variables. Well, 3 is by itself, so there's nothing else to multiply it by. And then what is c times c times c?
C to
Oh, c to the third power, or c cubed, whichever way you want to say it. So you would say 3c cubed. Yeah.
So, wait, no, never mind.
Okay. All right. Next, we'll go to number 11. Shay?
Negative 14n squared.
Negative 14n squared. Does everybody see that? You have 7 multiplied by negative 2. That's just negative 14. N times n is n squared. Let's see, 11. How about number 15? Nathan?
U cubed times 9 times v.
That's correct. But when we say them, we typically, it's not, what you said isn't wrong, but you want to arrange them for the constants first. And then what you want is, where was I? Number. Okay. So you want to organize them so that you have, first of all, you have your constant first. Then when you have more than one variable, you're going to put your variable to the highest power next. So because this one's 3. By the way, what is v? What exponent is up here for v? Hojin?
No.
What exponent do I have for v? If there's nothing written, it's just a 1. It's v to the first. Okay? If you have nothing written, it's a v to the first. So it's, and you don't have to write that. You can just leave that blank. But so you want to organize your constant first, then whatever your variable is to the highest degree, and then your variable to the next degree. If you would have put 9vu cubed, that's not a wrong answer. You just want to get in the habit because in the next sections coming up, we're going to have to be multiplying and adding all these things. And when that happens, you want to be able to do. It'll be easier if you have them organized in this way. Also, if you had two things where they had the same power. Let's say you had 6 a cubed, b cubed, d cubed, e cubed. If you had that, and all these variables are to the third power, then organize them alphabetically. So 6a cubed, b cubed. Well, they're already alphabetical as I wrote them. But so you do them alphabetically if they weren't already. Again, if you put them in the wrong order, that's not wrong at this point. There's still the correct answer, but you just want to get in the habit of using that.
So you don't put it by exponents. How many?
Exponents first, and then if they're the same, if they're all 3s, then do them alphabetically. Okay? All right, how about 19, Weston?
Well, it's gonna be 2p. P. 1
P squared.
Square, yeah. Times q squared.
Times q squared.
Times r times a.
You don't need to put the dots in when they're just variables. So just P. Good. Okay. All right. How about number 23, Elise? The sum of the cube of A and the cube of B. How would you arrange that?
C.
Oh, hang on a second. I gotta write it down. I'm not looking at my book. The sum of the cube of A and cube of B. I'm sorry. Go ahead now.
C.
Well,
A cubed plus B cubed.
oh, I see. It's got the letters to match up. I was wondering. Okay. So I'm sorry. Which one? You see? Yes. A cubed plus B cubed. Some of you may not immediately see this, so let's go through this here. So when you get, first of all, you get something. When you get these word problems, try to break them apart. So the sum. Well, the sum just means you're going to add two things together. That's all. So I only need is a plus sign. And when I'm adding things together, I just kind of do this because then I try to fill in the blank. What two things am I adding together? Well, the cube of A and the cube of B. So A cubed plus B cubed. Okay? And if you break it up like that, when you have these word problems, it'll make a lot more sense to you. Okay. Let's see. Number 27, Hojin. Number 27. What do you have for the top? Negative 48. Who agrees with them? Who else thinks it's negative 48? Raise your hand. Who thinks it's positive 48? Raise your hand.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for everybody else. So
Wait, is that parenthesis, like the A, is that?
I'm just doing A on the top. I'm not doing anything with the parentheses at the bottom.
I'm so confused on the A and the B.
Well, this is just problem A, problem B. This isn't part of the problem.
Forget the B.
Guys, this isn't part of the problem. That's just A and B. If you're looking at number...
Darn it.
All right, shh. Guys. Who else thinks it's negative 48? Raise your hand. 3 people. Who else? Who thinks it's positive 48? Raise your hand. Okay.
Oh, it's
All right. Hojin is correct. It's negative 48. Let me show you what.
You know, I said that the first time, but then the smart people said negative. So.
All right. Let me show you.
It's negative 4, it's not negative 4.
What? Remember, what does negative 4 squared mean? Well, what number is in front of a negative? Anyone? 1. Well, they don't write it, but it's negative 1. So what do you have here? You have negative 1 times 4 squared. Okay? And remember, with your order of operations, the first thing you have to do before you multiply this negative is you have to square that. So you have 16 times negative 1, which is negative 16. Now you multiply that by 3 and get negative 48. So you have to be careful. Now, if I had this, what if I had...
If you have negative 4 times negative 4, though. Yeah.
I don't have negative 4 times negative 4. I'm squaring 4. I'm not squaring negative 4. The negative means that I'm multiplying 4 squared by negative 1. That's what a negative means. So if I have this, if I had it in a parentheses like this, negative 4 squared, now I do the grouping symbol first, because negative 4 is really 4 times negative 1, which would be negative 4 squared. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16 times 3, which is 48. So if I have...
makes your mind think differently.
Negative 4 squared is negative 16.
Very confusing.
Well, I'm redoing it here. I could read this the opposite of 4 squared. What is the negative sign? Guys, look up here, please. The negative sign means the opposite of. The opposite of 4 squared is negative 16. This here is, if it's in a parentheses, negative 4 squared, which is positive 16. So you have to be careful to watch your grouping symbols, and that's a mistake that many of you will make. So you have to pay attention to what you have here. If there's no parentheses, it's just that number squared, and then take the opposite of it. Okay? All right, let's see. Desiree, you can do B down. Well, negative 4 times B. Okay. Everyone's working it out. Work it out. You know it?
Pretty sure.
Okay. You got an answer? What's your answer, Desiree?
144.
Who agrees with her? 144. Raise your hand. Okay. Eric, what do you think the answer is if you disagree?
Wait, what?
What do you think the answer is? All right, you got to work them out, guys, while all the people are going, because I'm just going to call on you randomly. Who thinks it's something other than 144? Raise your hand. What do you think it is?
Negative 144.
You think it's negative 144? Anyone else have any other different answers? All right. She's correct. It's 144. Let me show you. Well, what's the first thing we do in our order of operations, guys? What's the first thing? Grouping. So first thing we do is what's in the grouping symbol. What is negative 4 times 3? Well, it's negative 12. Okay? So you have negative 12 squared. Well, what is negative 12 squared? That's negative 12 times negative 12. When I multiply two numbers and they're both negative, I get a positive. So it's a positive 144. Okay. Let's do number 31A. Eric. Do you have a pencil or something to write with? It's a lot easier if you write it down. Everyone's figuring it out. Let me know when you have an answer. Or if you're lost, tell me you're lost. It's okay if you're lost. Are you lost?
No.
Okay, let me know when you got it, then I'll wait on you. What's that?
I don't-
Okay, well, I'm going to wait for Eric first. Once he has an answer, then we'll compare. Okay, what do you got?
9.
I'm sorry?
9.
9. Who else has 9? Raise your hand if you have 9. All right, if you have something else, raise your hand. What do you have?
I have 3.
You have 3. Who else has 3?
3. It better not be negative 3.
Who else has an answer other than 9 or 3? Raise your hand if you have something else.
3.
What do you have, Al? 9 or 3 are the two choices. What do you have?
27.
27. So I have 9, 3, and 27. Okay. So let's do it. Well, our order of operations says that the first thing we do is what's in this grouping symbol. So before we do anything else, we have to do 4 minus 5.
This is 1. I think it's negative
4 minus 5 is negative 1. Okay. So now you have 3 times negative 1 squared. Well, what is negative 1? Well, our next in our order of operations is exponents. So here we have an exponent. So what is this? Well, this is negative 1 times negative 1, right?
Positive 1.
Which is positive 1. And 3 times 1 is 3. The answer was 3. Okay, let's do letter B. And Elise, you can do B. Letter B.
What problem is this?
Same one we were at. 31.
Okay.
31B.
Oh.
So we go left to right or right to left?
With what?
With like order operations.
Left to right with your multiplication and your addition and all that.
I think it's negative 13.
Negative 13. Who else thinks it's negative 13? Raise your hands. I'll put the choices up here.
What?
Who has something other than negative?
Hold on.
Take your time. Who thinks? What you have?
37.
You have 37. Who else has an answer other than one of those?
I know.
What do you have?
300.
300.
Wow.
Okay. Who else has something? Anyone else? Okay.
Weston, did you
So let's do
randomly
it.
guess?
So the first thing we do in our order of operations is we do parentheses. Well, there's no grouping here, so you can go on to number 2. And number 2 is our exponents, right? Okay. So what do we have here? We have 3 times 4 minus the opposite of 5 squared.
Isn't it negative 5 times?
No, that's what we just talked about. There's no parentheses here. This is negative 1 times 5, okay? So it's 3 times 4 minus 5 times 5 is 25. Now, once you have this, multiplication comes before subtraction. So multiplication here, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 25 is indeed, Elise, negative 13.
Yeah, Elise. Good job.
Thanks.
You deserve $1. When I'm broke.
Okay, let's do number 35. Shay, 35. Everyone's working on this.
Shay, this looks fun.
Everyone's working on it, Dan. You got to write it down. You're not going to get it if you don't write it down. I promise. I don't think anyone can do this in their head. Even I would have to write this down. Five cubed plus negative 3 cubed divided by 7 squared. You working it out, Felix? Hang on, we're going to let Shay do it first, and then you'll all have the opportunity to tell me your choices.
Two.
She has 2. Does anybody else have a different answer?
Hold on a second.
What did you get, Dan?
Not
All right, keep working on it. Anybody else have something other than 2?
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to tell until everybody gives me their
I'm not
answers.
finished yet.
I'm 3.
Tim says 3.
I got
I'm not
two.
done
I got
yet.
two.
I did it all
Well,
night.
I
I'm
have
not
2.
done yet either.
Take your time. I'm not rushing anyone.
Dance. Ill.
I got
Never mind, my answer's 2.
two. I got two.
Guys, unless you're working, don't talk.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any different answers other than 2?
I'm not finished. I'm not done.
103. Okay.
I'm not done yet. Chihuahua. Where'd you get Chihuahua out of all of this? Where? Nope, give up. I give up. Oh wait, oh.
Yeah.
I know that. 9 points, sweet. Okay. Mr. Sega,
Felix.
you are officially.
Alright.
Mr. Sega,
What?
square. I got 2, guys. I got 2.
It's not a decimal, I'll say that. Alright, so the first thing you do, guys, is the grouping in here. So we have to find out what's in this grouping before we do anything else. Well, in order to evaluate this grouping, now we have to go to exponents because that's next in our order of operations. 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Negative 3 cubed is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times...
The answer's 2.
2 was the answer.
Oh, what you got?
This is
I got 6.
90...
Wait, it was negative 27? Or was it
98
positive?
is divided by 49.
Wait, was the 27 positive or negative?
27?
Yeah.
Negative, because you have a negative times a negative times a negative.
Yeah, I don't
An
know
odd number is negative.